Undercover owner orders steak. Waitress secretly slips him a note that stops him cold. Before we dive into the story, hit the comments and tell us your city or country. Let's see how far this story reaches. If you like the video, please subscribe. It was supposed to be a quiet night. He walked in alone, just another man looking for a good meal. No one knew he was a silent partner, the one who owned everything they saw. But when the waitress slipped a napkin under his plate, what was written changed everything. This wasn't just dinner anymore, it was a warning. Julian Banks didn't dress like someone worth $80 million. He wasn't flashy, didn't wear suits to dinner, and rarely stepped foot into the restaurants he invested in, especially the struggling ones. That's how he liked to keep things, quiet, unseen, observing from the shadows. Tonight, he wanted to get a first-hand look at his latest acquisition, Riverstone Grill, a rustic steakhouse he bought 6 months ago through a silent holding company. The numbers hadn't added up. Food costs were high, staff turnover was higher, and reviews were dismal. So, Julian booked a table under a fake name, Matthews, and wore his usual hoodie, jeans, and scuffed boots. Just a quiet guest, slipping in unnoticed. From the moment he sat down, he sensed tension. The hostess barely made eye contact. The manager, a slick-looking man with too much gel and not enough patience, barked orders near the kitchen. The waitstaff looked scared. That's when she walked up. Ariana, maybe 25, had tired eyes and a polite smile that didn't quite reach her face. She greeted him softly and took his order. When she turned to leave, Julian caught her glancing toward the back office. Something was off. Julian sipped his water, trying to stay inconspicuous. Ariana brought out his steak 15 minutes later, but instead of setting the plate down and walking off, she paused. Her hand subtly slipped something under the plate, just beneath the edge of the charger. She whispered, "Enjoy your meal, sir," and disappeared. Curious, Julian waited a moment before lifting the plate. Folded in plastic wrap, slightly damp from the condensation, was a napkin. Scrawled across it in shaky handwriting were 4 words, "He watches the cameras." Julian's pulse quickened. He looked around, careful not to move too fast. Security cameras dotted the corners, and the manager hadn't stopped pacing between the kitchen and his office. He unfolded the rest of the napkin. "Please help us. He's locking our pay, skimming tips, and threatening to fire anyone who speaks out. No one will listen." Julian stared at the words. The room faded into a buzz. This wasn't just a failing restaurant. This was abuse, and somehow someone had figured out who he really was. His instincts from his early days in corporate investigations kicked in. He didn't react. He calmly ate half his steak, smiled politely at Ariana when she passed by, and paid in cash as he left. He caught her eye. She gave the slightest nod, lips trembling. Julian didn't go home. Instead, he drove 10 blocks away, parked in the back lot of a 24-hour diner, and opened his laptop. What Ariana didn't know was that Julian had full ownership of the security system. It wasn't just for the manager. He had remote access, full playback, all cameras, all audio. He spent 3 hours that night watching footage. What he saw turned his stomach. The manager, Greg Simmons, had been skimming off the top of every credit card tip. He'd instituted an equipment fee, making servers pay in cash weekly, and he'd forced staff to clock out early while continuing to serve. Several were reduced to tears in the freezer. Even worse, he'd recorded Ariana being berated for giving a complimentary glass of water to a homeless man last week. Julian documented everything: screen recordings, logs, audio. The next morning, he made one call to his attorney. By noon, they had everything filed. By 3:00 p.m., Julian returned to Riverstone Grill, not as Ty Matthews, but as Julian Banks, the sole owner. This time, he was in a crisp black button-down with 2 lawyers behind him. Greg was in the middle of yelling at a dishwasher when he saw them walk in. His voice cracked. Julian said nothing at first. He laid the printed footage across the host stand and let it play. As Greg's face went white, the staff slowly emerged from the kitchen, watching in silence. When the video of him shoving Ariana's shoulder played, an audible gasp filled the room. "You're fired," Julian said quietly, effective immediately. Greg tried to speak, but security was already behind him. The staff watched in disbelief as the man who had made their lives hell was escorted out of the building. Julian turned to them. "Some of you knew who I was," he said. "Some didn't, but I know what you've been through." He looked directly at Ariana. "And I know who had the courage to speak up." Over the next week, Julian personally reinstated all unpaid wages. Every employee received back pay with interest, along with an anonymous mental health stipend. Ariana was promoted to assistant general manager, effective immediately, with a raise and full benefits. Julian also instituted a new policy. No manager would ever operate alone without HR training and a performance audit at every quarter. As for the cameras, they were still running, but now they were watched to protect the staff, not punish them. The restaurant that had been dying quietly was now revived by truth, accountability, and one handwritten note that changed everything. Sometimes it only takes one voice to break the silence. Ariana didn't just save her job. She saved the team, exposed a lie, and reminded a millionaire why justice always starts at the ground level. Would you have had the courage to slip that note? Let us know in the comments. If you like the video, please subscribe.